Thumbnail got your attention, didn't it? What is happening, Magnus Sites? I want to take this opportunity to say to myself, Happy Father's Day. Now, let me explain myself. While my mother did an exceptional job, I believe, in raising me into being a good person, a good human being, the father part was always missing. As far as I can remember, my parents split when I was around 4 years old. And from there on, I only saw my father sporadically for a couple more years after that. After that, I haven't seen him. Now, my mother's job was to raise me the best as she could. But as we all know, a child is healthier and raised better with both parents, okay? The majority of the time, only a woman can raise a proper woman, and only a man can raise a proper man, okay? So, or a father can raise a proper man. So, over the years, I had to raise myself. And how did I do that? I'll tell you how I did it. I raised myself through taking bits and pieces from other great men in several different areas of life. And I took what worked for me and I applied it to myself. Everyone from Martin Luther King to Malcolm X to Dr. Sebi to George Washington Carver to Bruce Lee to Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Roy Jones Jr., Customato, Mike Tyson. We got Robert Kiyosaki, Kevin Trudeau, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Goldberg, Hulk Hogan, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. I mean, I could just keep going on all day. You got my family. You got my Uncle Errol, my Uncle Kenny, my Uncle Tyler, my Uncle Jim, my Uncle Phil, my older cousins, my cousin Tion, my cousin Troy. Did I say Uncle Kenny? I don't want to miss out Uncle Kenny. I just took pieces from all these different men through life, seeing them on TV, reading their books, listening to audio books. There's so many men out there and in between, even men that I work with. Y'all know of a singer named Tone Stiff? His father was the first person to kind of give me a mirror and show me kind of where I was in life and why I was stuck, what I couldn't get past. And once I realized that, took off with a lot of stuff. There's just so many people that I've learned from in my life to shape myself into the man that I wanted to be, you know? And no matter what you may think of any of these men, all men have their faults, but I always take the good pieces and mold them into myself. You got what I'm saying? I could probably sit here for another 5 minutes and name off any men that I took little pieces here and there, learned little things from, you know what I mean, and apply them to myself. So I want to take this opportunity to say Happy Father's Day, not only to the great men out there, period, that raised good children, that were there for their children and never left, but to the great men out there that taught young men and women, even though they weren't their fathers, they were a father figure of sorts or in ways or fully. That's stepfathers and other guys. Sometimes you date a woman and you take on her children and you truly treat them like your children and you raise them well. And it might not have lasted, but you were that great father figure in their life. And that goes out to teachers and everybody else in between that takes on that role. But more importantly, or just as importantly, rather, I just want to thank those young men out there who didn't have their father in their life, from either them passing away or them not wanting to be in their lives or whatever it may be. I want to thank those young men and say happy birthday. Happy Father's Day to those young men out there that took it upon themselves to raise themselves, to not say, I ain't got no father, so I'm just going to wallow in sadness, depression, insecurity. I'm just going to turn to a life of crime or turn to a life of nothing. Many of these guys out here realize what they're doing and they know why they are where they are. You can't pick your parents. You got to deal with the cards that life deals you. And once you realize your faults and your problems and you're conscious of it, you need to turn around. And many of you did. Many of you never fell. Many of you didn't have a father, but you still grew into great men. You did what I did. You read books, audio books. You followed men that you admired, that you saw on TV or read about, or read about in history or whatever it is. You learned about them. And you took pieces of them and you patterned yourself after them. Some of you, totally patterned yourself after certain people. They were your idol. And you sought to imitate them in every form and fashion because they were way better than what you were dealt as a father in life. So, I've never worshipped any of these men, but I definitely admired them all for specific reasons. And anybody I admire, whether it be women or men, but we're talking about men today, I take a piece of that and I sew it into myself. So I'm a patchwork quilt of many, great people, great men out there. And like I said, I could sit here and name a bunch of people, So I was just thinking off the top of the dome, I could name anybody from, hey, we could go on to Jesus and the Buddha. I could go on to rappers and talk about rappers that influenced me, other writers that influenced me, other actors, even certain politicians I took certain things from and said, you know what, that's pretty damn good, So to all you young men out there that think that you do not have that because you don't have a father that you ain't gonna be shit and you can't do this and you can't do that. BS. I'm still a work in process and process. However, if I was able to do it, you can do it too. Happy Father's Day. 10 million subscribers. Woo!